and welcome to Midori House on Monocle 24, live from Studio 1 in London with me, Dominic Reynolds, and Phil Hahn.
Coming up in the next 60 minutes, we'll be setting the day's agenda with Dr. James Boyes from King's College, London. James, what do you have for us today?
Well, this morning, as President Barack Obama edges nearer to lame duck territory, we consider the political developments that are sweeping the US from sea to shining sea.
So it's 7 minutes past 8 in London. That is around about the time that we set the day's agenda on Midori House. 3 stories you need to know about for the rest of the day. Dr. James Boyes is helping us do exactly that today. He's from King's College, London. Of course, James, welcome back to the programme.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, a US slant, as ever, to the topics you bring us. Where are we starting?
Well, what I'd like to talk about today is, if you think about the United States, it has many great assets to its political establishment, but one of the great flaws, arguably, is that it's very much geared up for campaigning. So I'm sure you'll remember there was that small incident last year, the American presidential election, which you would think that would clear the decks for the next 4 years, and you'd be utterly wrong, because we're already starting to consider the fact that Barack Obama is entering, or beginning to enter, lame duck territory, and we can arguably see this with his dealings with Putin recently. It was very clear that Putin had really not much time for what Obama thought. So we're entering silly season. There's a series of elections coming up this year, leading into 2014 and then 2016. So they're important to see not only the lay of the land, but how things are going to pan out. So if we think in New Jersey, for example, let's start on the East Coast. Young Democrat politician Cory Booker's just won the Democratic primary in New Jersey. Why is that important? Well, it's important because New Jersey hasn't elected a Republican senator since 1972. So whoever wins the Democratic primary at this point of the year is pretty much a shoo-in for the Senate elections coming into the fall.
Booker is a sort of celebrity candidate, essentially, former Newark mayor.
He is indeed. Yeah, absolutely. And you can see how they're almost trying to position him perhaps as a sequel to Obama in some respects. You know,
he came to fame really during Hurricane Sandy, didn't he? On a national level, at least. You know, when he was inviting people to stay at his house who had lost power and had no running water. Is he a real potential replacement then for Obama in the next maybe 4-8 years?
I don't think anybody's expecting him to be a replacement for Obama. We'll come on to who she may be in a while, I think, and there's a big clue there. But
You're so cryptic.
Oh, and I cool. He was certainly someone who, along with that other great New Jersey politician Chris Christie, made great headway during Sandy. The only person arguably to do better than either of those was Barack Obama, I think, whose campaign for re-election really was turned by the Sandy election there. But the idea that we've got a young African American coming in to take the Senate seat in New Jersey, replacing Frank Luckenberg, who'd been there forever, I think it was acknowledged, is quite an interesting development. Of course, he's not the only Democratic candidate running on the East Coast. If you go just across the river, you find yourself in the Empire State, New York. And who's running in New York for the mayor? Anthony Weiner.
Across the river, we find ourselves in Weiner territory.
In Weiner territory. Someone who makes flashes feel quite awkward, I think.
Yeah.
What's interesting here, though, is this individual obviously was forced to basically step down from his seat in Congress. He's now running. He obviously thought, well, the congressional office wasn't enough. Now I'm going to run for the mayor of New York. What's fascinating about this is you get cycles in American history where you get very, very strong candidates and then very, very weak candidates. If you think about the election in 2008, for example, there was a very strong Democratic field for the presidency. If you look at the mayoral candidates that the Democrats are putting forward for New York, these are one of the major offices in the United States, mayor of New York. You get to be in, Ghostbusters when they make that, for example. And here, it seems that no one wants to run. The Democratic field is very, very weak. The fact that everyone's focusing on Weiner is partly because there's so few decent candidates. If you're a Republican, you must look at this and rubbing your hands together and think, we've got a really good shot.
Perhaps that's because Ghostbusters 3 is stuck in development hell.
And it has been for years.
Indeed, so I believe. We'll have to talk about that another time. I wonder, though, about Anthony Weiner, though. Is this the fact that he is still apparently in with a chance, that people are still interested in him? Is this the Americans looking for another underdog sort of comeback story? Whatever mistakes he makes, it seems people are still willing to entertain the idea that he could be electable.
I think they're finding him entertaining, whether they're going to entertain him in terms of voting for him. He's currently in fourth place, my understanding is, coming out of the debate that was on last night. One of the great problems he's got, of course, is that if you want to run in New York, it's great to have political support. And one of the people he was hoping would support him going into this was former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, partly because Weiner's wife is Hillary's chief of staff. And they made it very, very clear very early on that they weren't going to get involved in this. And he keeps trying to drag them back in one way or another. He actually made an announcement in the last 24 hours saying that he knew the role that his wife was going to be playing in Hillary's campaign in 2016. They weren't very happy about this, and they've come out fighting, saying, well, he obviously knows something that we don't. I'd like to know what that is effectively. So, of course, this brings Hillary into all this. Hillary Clinton has just announced in the last couple of days that she's going to be joining Bill Clinton's foundation permanently. The Bill Clinton Foundation will no longer be the Bill Clinton Foundation. It will be the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation. And this idea that they're going to try and make almost a monolithic foundation designed and recalibrated, I think, to outlive the former president and be far more of a akin to the Bill Gates Foundation, for example. It's gone through a whole series of changes over the last week or so. A lot of people coming in, investigating it, making changes, and of course this is going to have implications for Hillary's potential run in 2016.
That announcement make it more or less likely that she would potentially run in 2016?
Well, I think what it does, I think she's definitely running. B, it gives her a credible platform. You know, what are you going to do? She's no longer Secretary of State. She's got 4 years, 3.5 until the next election. Sure, she's got to start running, but it kind of gives her an intellectual base, as it were. She's not running from the Senate, so she's got an intellectual base. She can talk about doing good deeds effectively, and not just be seen to be grabbing money, which she will be doing, obviously, when she's writing her second series of memoirs, which will focus on her years as sextet.
Well, the entertainment industry seems to be supporting the
You're
Clinton.
absolutely right.
I mean, we've got 2 mini-series in production about Clinton. Is it too ridiculous a thing to say that one half of the sort of entertainment world is sort of supporting her and her future bid?
It might be the entire entertainment industry,
Well, yeah,
honestly.
it's hardly a right-leaning group of people.
Well, absolutely. And indeed, it is the right-leaning minority in America, Fox News in particular, for example, who are kicking a stink about this and saying, well, hang about, how appropriate is it that a division of MSNBC are producing a mini-series based around Hillary Clinton and giving it free airtime effectively. So the question therefore is, where does this go from here? You know, but she's certainly entertaining propaganda.
And also the RNC saying they might not participate in presidential level debates with networks like NBC or CNN if they go ahead with these miniseries.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you get every year is, this sort of give and take about where we're going to put priorities in terms of elections and are we going to participate. There's a lot of coverage about whether, for example, the actual conventions get full airtime nowadays. And obviously they don't as much as they used to. So there's a lot of give and take and a lot of shenanigans.
3 years away and we're already talking about
Indeed.
2016.
Absolutely.
James Boyce, thanks very much for coming on the program with a look at the 3 stories, 3 or 4 stories we need to know for the next 24 hours.